Greetings, nerds. This is a very difficult video to make because it's about underhues. So, underhues are all nuanced. They impart a very specific color when you mix into them, but not super noticeable sometimes. Let's get on to these examples right here. So, I have four different pigments here. That's ultramarine, that is phthalo blue red shade, phthalo blue green shade, ultramarine red shade, ultramarine green shade. As you can see, they're the phthalos are very similar. The ultramarines are even more similar. The ultramarine red shade is a little bit darker. It has a little bit of a desaturation compared to that one, but we're talking minuscule amounts here of desaturation, minuscule amounts of change here. So if you were to pick an ultramarine red shade because you prefer that over green shade, that is perfectly fine. Green shade will mix cleaner colors than the red shade will, but that doesn't mean you don't like the red shade more. Both are going to be perfectly fine. They're going to mix very similarly. The red shade will impart a better violet than the green shade will. That's why ultramarine is so much better and why you want it on a palette compared to the phthalo red shade. Because if we look at a color wheel here, we can kind of show this off a little bit here. So, once again, love having this thing. Handprint.com. Bruce McAvoy, you are a godsend for having this. Though I wish it had more pigments on here. So, we have our phthalo blue PB15. That's the green shade, that's the red shade. They are pretty far apart from each other, but they mix very similarly on this plane. That's about what? 250, I want to say? Like 247? Something like that. 260 or so. Yeah, that's about 260 on the wheel. And then we have our red shade, which is dead on at 270, or almost dead on at 270. Then we have our ultramarine blue right here, which is very red. Now, the red shade is going to be right there. Well, most red shades are going to be right there. I'll show you an example of one that is redder in a moment here. But that's that, and the green shade is roughly somewhere around here. It's still a red shade. It's still in the past the 270 range. It's much closer to like a cobalt blue deep, the PB74, than it is, anything else is much closer to that, kind of in between. As you can see, that's a green shade right there. And that's a red shade right here. You can sort of see the difference on camera. How that imparts a little bit more of a violet-y tone than that one does. But it's very hard to see. It's nuanced. Incredibly nuanced. We can see the nuance here is a lot less with titanium white. Titanium white is one of those pigments that imparts its underhue a ton on pigments due to how it works with light. That's kind of the trick here. This right here is zircon mixing white. These are both carbon black. And that's titanium white right there. You see how much bluer it is and how much browner this one is. The underhue of the mixing white, the zircon white, isn't as much as this one is. This is a much cooler tone white or gray than that one is because of the titanium white's underhue coming through. Then we go over here to aniline. Titanium white and aniline mixes a very blue color because the aniline is more blue than the carbon black is. The carbon black is closer to a brown in reality. Or the carbon black I have is closer to a brown in reality. If the carbon black I had that was closer to a blue, it would look more like the aniline. And when we mix in the zircon mixing white to the aniline, you can still see that blue tone come through from the aniline because the aniline is coming through so much more than the underhue of the zircon white is. But because both of these are blue, the titanium white and the aniline, we get this very blue, like desaturated blue color, and it's clearly this weird desaturated blue color compared to just the titanium white and our carbon black. Underhues of pigment can come in a huge variance of shades. This right here looks purple in camera, but it's not. It's a blue. It is a ultramarine that is so red that it's, well, looks violet. It's a really interesting color. But ultramarine can come in everything from that to these greens up here. Because of its underhue just varying so much. There's a ton of different ultramarines, as you can see right here. Tons of them. These are ultramarine violets. That's lapis lazuli. That's also ultramarine violet. These are ultramarine blue. Those are ultramarine green. And those are ultramarine red. And technically there is an ultramarine yellow, but that's a different story. And I will get into that at some point. Ultramarine yellow is a weird pigment. Technically not even a pigment, and it technically doesn't exist, but it does exist. It's a chemical reaction of acids. Zoom back into this thing right here. In any case, hopefully this was understandable and it gave you more of an insight into underhues and how they work, because it is, as I said, a very nuanced concept that doesn't make too much sense. We can go with another example here. Perylene green versus perylene black, where the black is way more black and kind of more blue, but this can come in both a yellow shade and a blue shade. This one pretty much just comes, well, also in the yellow and blue shade, but they're nuanced differences here. But if you compare these two pigments, you can see the underhue. They're both green underhue, but they're a different green. This is also way darker and more black. This is the reason why discussing underhues is so complicated without showing off science and math and all these things and a ton of like specific data. I want to do that in a future video, but I don't know how well it will perform. So let me know in the comments if you want to see more scientific stuff in the future. Past that, that's all for this video. I tried to explain it the best I could, but it's not that great of an explanation. Sorry about that. It's hard to explain nuance. So either way, there's some links down in the description. There's a Ko-Fi, a Patreon, and the Discord. Also, I stream on Twitch occasionally, where I make paint for the most part. I also stream on YouTube. But yeah, that's all. I don't know how to end videos still. It's been a year. Why won't someone tell me how to end a video?